Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices, and you can sign up for product alerts. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Usually at the end of the year, I come out with two final videos. One that's the best games of the year, and these are all sorts of different categories like card games, cooperative games, and things like that. And then I do a top 10 of the year. Well, this year I was thinking, I've reviewed over 100 games this year, and I've played close to 3 times that has come out this year, and I typically cover the ones on my channel that I'm most excited about. However, I do have about 40 unique games that I'm going to be covering over the next 12 days or so. I'm going to put out 10 final year videos coming out here shortly, one after another, of all different categories, top 5 games of all these different categories. Then I'll do a final categorized video that will have some new categories. I didn't quite have 5 to put on there, and then I'll do my top 10. So as a gift to you, since I've played this many games and I've had fun doing it, I want to bring 40 new games. So most of these lists will have no crossover, and so bringing these to you to bring attention to games that you might not have known about. Now, in addition to that, as these come out, you can always see the latest one at GameBoyGeek.com/2019. Now, if you subscribe to my channel, you'll see them as they come up. But you can always go to GameBoyGeek.com/2019, and as they get released day after day here towards the end of the year, you'll be able to see them, just popping up there as they come up. Also, for each of these videos, I've placed the links of the reviews of each of these in the description of this video below me. So after you've watched this, if you want to learn more about it, you can go directly to the review for each of these games. And with all that being said, let's get going with the top 5 strategy games.
Number 5.
My number 5 is one of those sort of contract fulfillment games. Think Splendor, if you will. What makes this game so different is that you're trying to collect resources, and you're trying to spend those resources to get cards that others are fighting for. But when you finish a card, it's going to be worth a certain amount depending on a fluctuating market. And players, as they finish cards, sometimes will enact special abilities right then, sometimes they'll enact them later. And there's different cards that will allow you to change that market. So you might be ready to make a big sale and get a bunch of money, but somebody else right before you does something and changes the market, and now it's not as good. So now you're like, well, do I do it now, or do I have something to manipulate it back? Or should I go for some other card that might get me just as much, if not more, now that the market has changed? And it's really interesting of this sort of, you've got some planning, but you got to know that it might change, and you're trying to sort of navigate those waters, change the market to the way you want, when you want it, and sell when you want it. So it has a lot to do with timing, has a pretty interesting resource management aspect where you can take a certain amount of resources by flipping different tokens, but that means you have less types of resources that you can get. So it's all about balancing, like, do I want a ton of these two, or do I want, less of them, but I have more choices as to which ones I get. So the way you select the resources, and the way the market fluctuates, and the way you get those contracts, and the abilities you get on those contracts after you finish them, all work together well. Very streamlined game. Really impressed me. Welkin.
Number 4.
This next one is a very popular game, probably one of the most popular games of the year. It actually won the Kennerspiel des Jahres, which is the Connoisseur's Game of the Year. And this is Wingspan by Stonemaier Games. This game is beautiful. Awesome theme about birds, learning about all the different birds that are around, what they do, what regions they like to be in. Are they predators or not? This is essentially sort of an engine building game where you're going to be grabbing these birds, putting them in one of the areas that they belong in, whether it's wetlands or grasslands or plains. You're going to be sometimes putting eggs on them that do different, that give you some points at the end of the game. Some other cards trigger off eggs. Sort of building an engine, building a strategy based upon the birds that you get. Some of them are predators. Well, you'll be taking cards off the deck and tucking them underneath if it's a small enough bird, if it's smaller than that bird. Very thematic things. Comes with a great sort of dice tower that you're rolling these resource dice in. So you're managing resources in order to sort of purchase different bird cards to put them in. The game has a great arc to it where you get less and less actions each round, but because your engine's being built up, you're getting more and more done even with that. There's different goals that you're fighting over for the game, having the best of certain things that change each game, but the game's really in the cards finding these synergies of what these different birds do and finding the right birds to play for your strategy for that game. It's a really good game, and it looks fantastic, and that's Wingspan.
Number 3.
The next one is Eco's First Continent. This is from AEG. This is from John D. Leclerc, who has done Custom Heroes and Mystic Vale, all the card crafting system games. And he's done Space Base. This game, you're all competitively, but still together sort of building an ecosystem. You're building a map of different ocean tiles and land tiles and prairie tiles. And on there will be different animals. Now the game's mechanism is essentially like gamer bingo. If you've ever played the game Augustus, think of that bingo mechanism where somebody's pulling things out of a bag, and depending on that logo, you're going to be putting cubes on cards. And when your card's finished, you get to do what that card says. Sometimes you're adding animals. Sometimes you're adding little tiles to the map. Sometimes you're just scoring points depending on what's out there and what's adjacent to this, and are there trees or are there mountains or are there animals near you. You're doing all these different things, and it's very fun to watch how this sort of morphs together into your own sort of kingdom. But you've got some goals that you're going for, but so do the other players. Lots of player interaction as to players either knowingly or not knowingly messing with the map that might hinder you. But you're essentially playing bingo, and you're comboing together an engine of cards that are going to fulfill your strategy the best. And it's really fun. You know, you can score just as many points with animals as you can with different things that come up on the map. And it's just trying to figure out, looking at the map and trying. You can get more cards. So you can, oh, you know, these aren't that good. I'll get some new ones. Oh, great. The map is more conducive to this. I'm going to go down this strategy. So you can pivot as well. Just really fun game. It's definitely got some meat to it. And it's one that looks great on the table, has lots to think about, and that bingo mechanism is cool to take that a little bit deeper than Augustus did. And that's Eco's First Continent from AEG.
Number 2.
The next one is a very thematic game. It could have found itself in a thematic category or an immersive category or an innovative category, many different categories. But I tried not to overlap any of them. And so in this case, the game is Detective City of Angels from Van Ryder Games. In this game, you are competitively trying to be the first to solve a crime. It's a scenario based, so there's a certain amount of crimes that come in the base game. However, one player is sort of running the game called the Chisel, and they know the solution, but they are hindering you to that. You're asking them questions. You're trying to be a good detective and ask questions. They have a book of answers. Sometimes they'll be telling the truth. Sometimes they won't. If you call them on their lie, you'll get some leverage on them. You'll be able to do things that give you abilities because of that. But if you're wrong, then the Chisel has some, the gain over you. Very interesting aspects of somebody running the game that knows the game and can mess with the players. The Chisel's trying to get it so nobody solves it by the end of the case. And if you're a detective, you're trying to solve it. You'll be the first one to solve it. This game has some interesting mechanisms that work well with learning evidence. And when other players gain evidence, there's ways that you can spend certain actions and stuff to see them earlier than you normally would be able to see them. Otherwise, evidence people find, it comes out to everyone else a few turns later, or you can spend some actions to get to it now. You can be bribing different cops. You can go around trying to find things. You're taking notes. It's sort of a deduction detective game that you're fighting against others to try to be the first one to do it. You're all sort of gathering different evidence, but you're trying to get to the same end of the crime. And with that Chisel thrown in there, it really gives this game a unique flavor. Fantastic detective game, Detective Cities of Angels from Van Ryder Games.
Number 1.
And my strategy game of the year is a game that was on Kickstarter from a small company, and it was delayed for a really long time. However, once it finally came out, it was worth the wait. This one is called Campaign Trail. This is sort of an election-style area control game where you're trying to be the president of the United States, and so you're fighting over different states to try to win the votes of that state through the Electoral College. Now this game has multi-use cards, where you're going to be using those cards to set yourself up, like gaining money, gaining registered voters, and moving around. And you're going to be also using those cards to campaign, to advertise, and to use special abilities. Now, in all this, there's also debates that happen. That's a very interesting mechanism that some of the things that you can do on these cards is move things up different tracks and debates, and all the states that have that as an issue, you'll get to move up in at the end of the debate if you're good at it. So a lot of it has to do with, I want to use this card for this, but if I hold it back to the debate, I might get that. Lots of tough decisions. It is a mean area control game, but the biggest thing here too is most of these style games are 2-player only. This is 1 to 6. You can play a 3-player game where everyone is their own, or you can play with more players where you're teams. One's the president, one's the vice president, so there can be up to 6 players playing. This style of game, that is a different thing, and it's one of the reasons why this is as high as it is, because it plays with a lot of player counts, it plays with it well, and it's just a really fun area control game, and those multi-use cards are awesome, the debate's cool, it's just a fantastic game, and Gray Fox Games is going to be putting this on Kickstarter next year to sort of reprint it with an expansion, with some things that they've redeveloped a little bit. So keep your eyes on that for now. Until then, I think there's a few copies maybe left on Cosmic Wombat's Games page. That's the company that originally put this out. My strategy game of the year, Campaign Trail. It's probably about a 2-hour game, but it definitely doesn't feel like it because it flies by. Well, I hope this helped you learn about games that you didn't hear about before, or if you'd heard about them, learn a little bit more about them in depth. Now, as a reminder, all of the games that I've covered in this video, I've placed links below to my reviews of those if you want to learn more below me. Also, keep in mind that there's going to be plenty other end 2019 videos that I'm putting out of all different categories, top 10s, top 5s, and the easiest way to find all those is just to subscribe to me down below, or you can easily just go to GameBoyGeek.com/2019. That's where all these videos will be popping up as they go live. This has been the Game Boy Geek, breaking down barriers, growing relationships through board games by helping you find the next one you'll love. Did you miss the Game Topper 2.0 Kickstarter? Have no fear, it's not too late to get in on the ultimate gaming accessory. Convert your table into a high-quality gaming table with a fully portable Game Topper system and take advantage of some of the best 3mm premium gaming mats in the industry. New styles, new sizes, and new accessories can be yours. Upgrade every game you play by late backing now at GameToppersLLC.com.